Well, good morning, everybody. I hope that everybody can see me on the screen. At this point, I think I should be the only one that you see. You can change your view if you would like, how you view the morning. But please let us know in the chat window if anybody is having any issues. I've got people monitoring that for us this morning. So if you have any issues throughout the morning, feel free to chat and let us know. Well, my name is Barb Gross, and I am the Events and Records Specialist for the Presentation Sisters. And I just want to thank you all for being here for the 25th Annual Women on the Prairie Conference. As we celebrate this huge milestone, we are also experiencing a first. As you can tell, we're doing this event virtually. COVID has certainly disrupted a number of things in our lives, but even though we aren't gathering in person at the convent and enjoying those hot caramel rolls and quiche that many of you come back for each year, just know that we are excited to have you here, and it's super exciting to know that we actually have registrants from coast to coast. I know there's California people, Florida people, North Carolina, so it's pretty amazing that kindness is hitting both coasts this morning. I'm just so glad that you've chosen to spend it with us as we prepare to share kindness and hope with one another. As we begin today, I want to invite you all to take your candle if you have one, and let that be a symbol that the light of Christ is with you throughout the special morning. Last fall, the Presentation Sisters chose to weave the theme of kindness into our marketing plan for 2020. At that point in time, we had no idea, as we prepared to incorporate this theme, that our world would so desperately need hope in whatever way we could offer it. Kindness can be found woven through many faith traditions. Both giver and receiver are affected by random acts of kindness and the amazing feelings that come from sharing that kindness. As we prepare to learn, be inspired by the message of kindness and hope, let us take time to pray for one another. God of love and mercy, we offer thanksgiving for the people in our lives who are easy to love. We are inspired and empowered by the way their kindness and simple presence can lift the burden of a difficult day. We also pray in gratitude for the people we find difficult to love, those who disapprove, ignore, or burden us. We ask your guidance and mercy when we struggle to see them through the light of your love. Even when the world around us is swirling and broken, thank you for being true, kind, and a foundation to lean on. Today, we boldly and humbly ask that you guide us with kindness, hope, and love, and that we may open our hearts and share these gifts with others. We ask these blessings of grace and hope as your love sustains us for another day. Amen. Well, because we have so many people, new people with us today, we just decided we had made this video for another presentation that we had done and felt it was just a quick example of some of the amazing things that the sisters have done. So we will view that at this point.
We Aberdeen sisters celebrate our ancestry in a troop of 3 courageous Presentation Sisters and 2 other young women who came from Ireland to Dakota Territory in 1880. Now, these were teachers who came to teach the white pioneer settlers and the Lakota and Nakota Native peoples. Like their foundress, Nano Nago, these women were edge walkers. You know, Nano said we should be willing to go anywhere in the world to save souls. Well, these trusting women came, believing so deeply in their call and in God's providence. They must have had uncommon faith and courage to go into the unknown as they did. After settling in Aberdeen, in Dakota Territory, they soon had started 9 schools and 4 hospitals. Diphtheria epidemic hit Aberdeen, and schools and parts of the town closed down, much like the coronavirus has done to us. Some townsfolk asked the sisters to take patients into their homes and their school, regardless of the danger. What if someone came to you today and said, Would you take some of the COVID patients into your home because we don't have a way to care for them? This was a dangerous thing to do, and they felt called by God to do it. Edge walkers. Where was the risk manager who should have warned them about the peril that lay ahead? Well, this launched the Presentation Sisters of Aberdeen into the healthcare ministry, which we have carried on now for, 120 years. It's now Avera Health. Of course, many sisters were needed to take care of all these ministries. Well, Mother John Hughes was an enterprising superior at the time and took trips to Ireland to urge sisters out to Dakota Territory. We have a copy of the marketing ad she used in Ireland. Listen to this. We offer you no salary, no recompense, no holidays, no pensions, much hard work, a poor dwelling, few consolations, many disappointments, frequent sickness, and a violent or lonely death. And they came. More women of faith and courage, more edge walkers. These women walked out to the very edges in responding to God's call because they loved God that much.
And missionary work transformed our congregation. They took us back to our Irish roots in Nanonagal. We recovered our spirituality, our charism for justice, and passionate love for the poor and marginalized. If I could be of service in any part of the globe, I would do all in my power. Nano's words moved us into the wider world to be with people of God in partnerships for mission. Collaborations actually began in the 1800s. Sisters from 3 different presentation congregations came as missionaries to South Dakota. That spirit for the sake of mission, do nothing alone, is in our DNA. Our missionary work reflected it, not only with other presentation sisters in Mexico, Guatemala, Bolivia, Zambia, and Malawi, but with multitudes of lay partners. That energy still burns brightly in Caminando Juntos, in Aberdeen, and even the countries we left behind. God has a way of keeping us, her daughters and partners, focused on that passion of Nano.
Just like Nanonagal did, we're called to be in joyful service, to go out where need calls loudly. And I think at the 2018 chapter, we really were called to look again at how we share that mission with others. And I think when we turn back years from now, we'll look back at that as a pivotal moment in our life. I think when the concept of presentation people came to us, it was from the International Presentation Assembly that phrase was coined. And I don't think anybody really ever knew exactly a definition of that. We knew in our hearts that it's people who share the mission. And when we're coming across people who are employees or lay associates, or maybe people who connect as donors, or maybe people who just really are touched by the story of Nanonagal, sometimes we know in our hearts, this person's a presentation person. They carry the mission. And that's brought great energy and life to us. And I really see that as we trust the calling of this Holy Spirit in this transformation, it's reaping some benefits. And I don't think we fully understand what this transformation means for us. But I hear from presentation people that they're excited about being along with the congregation on this journey.
It's been almost 25 years since I started working for the sisters, and I have noticed a huge transformation of the presentation people over that time. When I first started working for the sisters, we knew we were employees for the sisters and that we came to work each day with a job to do. But over the past years, those roles have changed dramatically. We are now invited into the sisters' daily and personal lives, and we're welcome, encouraged, and even encouraged to share our voices at the congregational meetings that we attend. We are encouraged to be an extension of the sisters' mission and ministries, and they are welcoming us on that journey as they work for justice across the world. The presentation people are excited and invigorated because now we feel like we're a part of the congregation. And by joining with the sisters, we're able to provide new opportunities and exciting opportunities to share our mission with others.
We have realized that our mission to alleviate oppression and promote human dignity is close to the hearts of many of our partners who are working with us. They know Nano and see her as a light. They practice the values of hospitality and joy and compassion. It has become very clear to us that they too carry the mission of Nano. It is not the sisters who are at the center of who we are. It's the mission that is at the center. To all of us, sisters, employees, presentation people, carry forward that mission to incarnate the justice and compassion of Jesus.
We're moving out like Nano in the neighborhood. While it's hard to leave behind the place that we've grown to love, we also know that Nano would have us go forth.
Well, I hope that just gave you a quick glimpse of who the sisters are, what they have done, and the amazing things that they continue to do in and around South Dakota and around the world. Just a few housekeeping tips, as I usually do when we're in person, but we've still got some here this morning. Even though we've tried to predict all the hiccups that might come along with this Zoom webinar today, we certainly are not Zoom specialists, and we apologize in advance if any unforeseen glitches come along. Just hang tight with us and we'll make it through. You've all been muted or should be muted, and your video's turned off. If you kind of notice that that isn't happening, you can sure shut that off in the bottom portion of your screen. There will be a time when Nicole will ask for people to share a short kindness story. Some of you have sent those stories into me, and some of you may just feel the urge to do it today, and we welcome that during that time. And she'll also have a question and answer period during the second portion. And we invite you to share your questions if you have one from the book you've read or from anything that you've learned today. We just welcome those. And if you don't want to do it with your video on, that's fine. You can just send in the question anonymously down in the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen as well. If you are sharing, Zoom will take you into a little room when we change you to a panelist, if you choose to do it with your video. So there is a short delay when you're switched into that room, but don't panic because we haven't lost you. You'll come in just a couple seconds. So after you've shared, your screen will indicate that you're being sent back to joining the attendees. So everything should work out fine that way. We will have a break mid-morning. Refill your coffee, grab a snack, whatever you need to do. That'll be about 15 minutes. And we will also be sending a survey after the conference. So we invite you to share your thoughts and experiences with us today. Even though we aren't in person, we want to know how the experience was for you, other than our Zoom skills. We don't want to know how bad our Zoom skills are today. So I met Nicole at a small event in Aberdeen a few months ago, and I knew in half a second she is a must-be for a presenter for our events. Her message that day was simple, but very effective. You matter, and kindness is contagious. I felt so fortunate to have met Nicole that day and been able to visit with her about partnering us with, for a couple events that we had. Fast forward a few months, we enjoyed Nicole at our Sioux Falls Lenten Women's Retreat, and we couldn't wait to have her with us in person for the Women on the Prairie Conference today. Then came COVID. Yeah, COVID. Plans moved forward, luckily. We decided to have this virtual event, and then came countless hours working together with Nicole's amazing team, and we learned all there was to know about Zoom events and knew that we wanted to move ahead with this and offer it to all of you. So I'm so grateful that Nicole was willing to journey into the virtual world with us, and we are so excited that she has joined us today to help us be transformed by kindness. I know this will be a magical day for you as Nicole shares her words of faith and goodness. Nicole is a national kindness champion and is sought after speaker who enjoys sharing her expertise for using kindness to overcome all of life's difficulties and spreading the love of Jesus. She is the author of the books Kindness is Contagious and Kindness is Courageous, and her most recent release, The Negativity Remedy. I'm sure many of you have already started reading that. She is also the host of the Kindness Podcast and writes a weekly kindness story for the Forum and soon-to-be column in the American News, I just read. So she has also been seen on the Hallmark Home and Family Show, Good Morning San Diego, and The Morning Blend. You will love hearing Nicole speak and finding out why she is blazing a new trail to crush the idea that kindness is just some fluffy feeling and share the power it has to change your life. It even helped her in her darkest moments when facing breast cancer. She has her broadcast journalism degree from the University of Wisconsin and has worked as a television anchor and reporter in Milwaukee and Madison, Wisconsin, and Fargo, North Dakota. As Miss Wisconsin 1997, she spent the year touring the state talking to kids and adults about overcoming crisis. So now it is an honor and a privilege to introduce my friend, Nicole Phillips.
Barb, thank you for that. I appreciate the warm welcome, and hello. It feels a little bit silly for me to be talking to the sisters and all of the sisters' friends, because if you're here, then I have a pretty good feeling that you already know a lot about kindness and you could probably write the book on kindness. And so, but I'm going to give it my best shot to give you some motivation today. Okay. All right. So, couple of things. I will be sharing my screen at different points, and up in the corner, the upper right-hand corner of your screen, you should be able to see something that says speaker view or gallery view. So if you feel like, gosh, I wish Nicole were bigger on my screen, or I wish Nicole were smaller on my screen, that has to do with you and your settings at home. So you can click up the upper right-hand corner, has a speaker view for you. So, all right. I want to do a little bit of housekeeping too, because my housekeeping deals with giveaways. I love, love, love a good giveaway. So we have this little chat feature in the side here that you can go through. And if you're looking for it and you can't find it, go to the bottom of your screen and there's a little bubble and it says chat. And so if you click on that, it'll bring up the chat on the side of your screen. And I want to make this as interactive as possible. I know from the Lenten retreat that you women are not quiet people, okay, right? Maybe none of us are real quiet people, but I know because I listened to you all sitting at your tables and visiting and talking and sharing fellowship with each other. And I might say something and someone would lean over and say, oh yeah, la, 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 and they would talk about it. So I want that to continue to happen. So as an incentive to keep the chat going and for you to, call out your friends on different things that you think are interesting, or ask questions or give comments, whatever it is, we are going to give away 2 copies of The Negativity Remedy. That's my latest book. And so after this is all over, then Barb will go through the comments and she'll randomly pick 2 people to be able to win something. So that will be fun. Okay. So the first thing I'd like you to do is to just close your eyes and imagine that you're sitting in a dark room, okay? Close your eyes and imagine that you're sitting in a dark room. Now, as you're sitting in this dark room, this is not the dark room where you're warm and cozy and all is well. This is the dark room that feels cold. It's small. You're huddled in the corner because you're trying to protect yourself. This is a place that you don't want to be, and somehow you ended up in this spot and there's no one else there, and yet there are things in the room you can't see. There's no light, there's nothing growing, but it smells really damp. Well, so maybe there is something growing, but whatever it is, it can't possibly be good. Your body is just sort of wilting in on itself. It's turning in. There's no hope. Your mind is being overtaken by the darkness, and you've forgotten what the light even looks like. Open your eyes. this is how some people see our world. Even the people who put on a bright smile, who go about all the tasks that they have to go about throughout the day, they still see our world like that. The state of our world is scary and it's unsure, for sure. You know, we sometimes feel like we better curl up and we better stick to ourselves and we better stick to our own family because we don't want to catch whatever else is out there, right? Whether that's negativity or someone's rude opinion or COVID. We have things lashing at us all the time that we can't see. Whew, that fear, depression, anxiety, hopelessness, it's all there and it's all whizzing past us, and we just hope that none of it sticks. But we do. We see the fear for our future, fear for our friends, fear for our sons and our daughters and our grandsons and our granddaughters, and we just want to scream out, where is the light? Where is the light? You want to know an interesting fact about light? The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot extinguish it. How cool is that? How is that possible? I'm coming off of the screen share right now, and I'm having technical difficulties, so you're going to have to deal with me. I hope you can see me now. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot extinguish it. That's from John 1:5. Inside the people who follow Jesus, there's a light. It's inside of you. It's inside of me. That's why we have the candles with us today, to represent that light, because that light that's inside of you and that's inside of me has the power to change the world. Have you ever seen someone smile and all of a sudden, like their whole face changes? There are people who say, oh, she has a smile that would light up the room. Have you ever seen that? It's like the person walks in and maybe they just have just a normal everyday face, and then they smile and you're like, wow, I feel happier just looking at you smiling. Have you met somebody like that? Isn't it the coolest? Oh, and you're just drawn to them. And what you're drawn to, I think, is the light. It's their inner kindness. It's Jesus, and it's coming out through their eyes and through their smile. And it is such a powerful, powerful, powerful thing. I'm going to take you back here. I want to show you something. Look at that. I'm just going to allow you all to see everything on my screen. I apologize for that. But if I do it the other way, then I know that I'm going to get stuck again and maybe not be able to find my way back to you. So here you go. Take a look. In 2014, researchers in the United Kingdom were doing some studies on Botox. Now, Botox is, it has medical, physical medical reasons to be used as far as I think seizures, and it paralyzes different parts of the body. But what they were looking at was Botox in the forehead area. And so Botox now is used by a lot of medical professionals for the use of beauty, right? And so that, you put it in your forehead and then you can't frown, right? It paralyzes those muscles. So what the researchers in the United Kingdom found were that, I think I said 2014. Yeah. Okay. What they found was that women and men who came and had their forehead injected with Botox would come back and report elevated levels of happiness, to the point where these researchers were like, wait a minute, this is not just paralyzing muscles. This is doing something in the brain to activate feel-good chemicals. Well, maybe not, Because what they ended up realizing was that those elevated levels of happiness were coming from what they called a lack of negative mood feedback. Okay, so this lady, she's got this on her face, right? And have you ever noticed that whatever face you bring to someone is generally what they'll bring back to you? So if you're just sitting there and you're not even thinking anything particularly bad or mean, but you're just kind of sitting there and somebody approaches you, generally they're going to have this same kind of just frowny face. But if you can lighten up your face and greet people with a smile, they will mimic you. It's this idea of humans aping humans, where we look at each other and we take in what they're giving and then we give it back. And so how important is that then, to smile or go get Botox, whatever works for you? But it does prove how important a smile really is. In the smile, there is no fear, right? We're not worried about someone. We're not on the defensive. There's no fear in a smile. It's a moment of preciousness and a moment of joy. And I think the reason for that is because that is the moment when we welcome people with the love of Jesus. If we look at some of, God's words, there is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. For fear has to do with punishment, and he who fears is not perfected in love. And so when we think about that verse, there's no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. When someone greets you with a smile, their light is shining for you. And we know in that moment that we don't have to fear them because we're in this moment of love. Can you imagine having the power to drive fear out of this world? Can you imagine that? Having the power to drive it out of yourself, out of your home, and eventually out of the world? That would be like a superpower. That's like, having an invisibility cloak, or perhaps when you're able to shoot fire or ice from your hands, like some superhero. The power to drive fear out of the world. But even though as children of God, we know that we might have that power, and we might know it's our job to love and to drive out fear with love, sometimes I think we get confused, don't you? I think sometimes we start asking ourselves questions like, how could someone like me, how could somebody like me possibly make a difference? How could my little thing possibly matter? And so today, I want to talk about three things. We're going to talk about, doesn't want to work. We're going to talk about thoughts. We're going to talk about words, and we're going to talk about actions and how to, in a practical daily sense, apply God's teachings in our thoughts and our words and our actions. Are you ready for that? Okay. So let's start with thoughts, because I love to talk about thoughts, because thoughts really were what changed my life. 10 years ago, I remember being at the gym. And I remember that I was standing in front of one of those huge mirrors at the gym that, won't hide anything. And I remember looking at myself with self-loathing. Now, at the time, I was on the edge of what anyone would call an alcoholic. So I was a drinker and a smoker and an overeater. And I was angry really a lot of the time at my husband for things like leaving socks on the floor. And the funny thing to me is that I had 3 small, beautiful, healthy children. I lived in a nice home. I had a husband who was so good to us. And yet, to me, life felt passionless and pointless and mundane. And somehow, all the self-medicating I was trying to do was just turning against me. and adding more negativity into my life. So here I am 10 years ago, standing at the gym in front of this mirror, looking at myself and seeing these rolls between, you know, where my shorts come up and where my t-shirt hangs over. And I remember thinking to myself, why do you even bother? Because you're just going to go home and you're going to have rum and cokes and eat potato chips. And why are you even here? Well, I started at that point realizing that the thoughts that I had in my head were affecting my emotions, and the emotions I was having were affecting my whole day. And it was a cascade that all started right here in my thoughts. And so one of the things that I want to give you today to make sure that you can take with you out into your life is this idea that you can control your thoughts. And in fact, we need to control our thoughts. And how do we begin to do that? By thinking about what you're thinking about. That is the number one first place to start. If you feel yourself being constantly in this realm of my brain is always on to the next thing, I got to hurry, I got a to-do list, I can't even sit here and enjoy this conference because I know that I should have put in a load of laundry before it started, and I could be unloading the dishwasher right now while I'm listening to Nicole speak. It's the hurry. Maybe you're sitting here, you're listening, and you're just full of worry. You know, you're worried about something that's coming up this week. You're worried about a diagnosis. You're worried about your finances. You're worried about an argument you had with someone, or what they might have thought about a comment that you made. Or maybe you are sitting in a spot where I was 10 years ago, where you have proclaimed yourself to be the judge and jury over everyone else. So not only are you saying to yourself and pointing out to yourself all of the things that, you know, really are detrimental to your well-being, but maybe you're thinking those things, or perhaps even saying those things about other people. You know, why is she wearing that skirt? It's so short. Or, you know, why do young people wear such tight clothes these days? Blech. You know, whatever it is that comes into your brain, that's not loving. And we allow those thoughts to just kind of zoom in, and then sometimes they stick, or sometimes they zoom out, but they're zooming in, and they're not invited, but they're there. So what do? We think about what we're thinking about. Here's some homework. Set a timer in your phone for 3 p.m. on Thursdays. Or if you're an overachiever, you can do it every day, whatever works for you. But set a timer on your phone, an alarm in your calendar that says, think about what you're thinking about. And then allow it to go off. And when you get that reminder, stop in that moment and think about what you're thinking about. Are you in the place of the hurry or the worry or the judge and jury? Is the thought going through your mind right now serving you? Or are you having this hypothetical conversation with yourself that's going to bring you down for the rest of the day? So think about what you're thinking about. And then we reject and we replace. So when I began to reject and replace, I knew that I had to say, I reject that thought. That was something I had learned from a book that I had read called Power Thoughts by a woman named Joyce Meyer. And so there is a Joyce Meyer, I think, on this panel right now, I think, but it's not the same Joyce Meyer. So hi, Joyce. So the book was called Power Thoughts. And one of the things that I pulled from that book was this ability to reject thoughts. And so I would say to myself, I reject that thought when I caught myself thinking something that wasn't going to be beneficial. And then, because that's not enough to move you to the next place, I would think to myself, my new thought. I had a predetermined list of words that I wanted to add into my life. Here they are, in case you need a predetermined list of words. They're from Galatians 5:22 and 23. They're called the fruit of the Spirit. And these words were love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. 9 words. And I knew that I wanted to add more of those attributes into my life. But in order to add them, I had to be conscious of them and I had to memorize them. So I would say to myself, I reject that thought. And then I would think about my words, love, joy, peace, patience. Inevitably, I would forget. And so I would pull this piece of paper out of my pocket and I would look at it. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Now, the funny thing is that I learned just like 3 years ago is that there's actually a song that you can sing. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. I got the tune wrong, but it's something like that. And I can learn things quickly when they're set to music, but if I just have to memorize a list of words, it's really slow. So I took the slow route and I suggest you do too. If you already have these words memorized, then here's your second piece of homework. Remember, your first is to think about what you're thinking about. Your second is to find a predetermined replacement thought. So you're looking for a mantra, you're looking for a scripture, you're looking for a quote, you're looking for anything that you can write down on a piece of paper and take with you. But it's important that we know that thought ahead of time and that it's perhaps a difficult enough thought that we have to really pay attention to those words so that we can move ourselves away from whatever negativity we were thinking about before. Okay, so let me stop the share here. I want to move on to words now. So that's the thought. And I'm hoping that you have that. Okay, I'm going to think about what I'm thinking about, and then I'm going to reject and I'm going to replace. Because to me, that made all of the difference. It was almost as if after a year of being intentional about my thoughts, being intentional about kindness, really looking for it around me, within a year, I had quit drinking, quit smoking, lost 30 pounds, fell in love with my husband. He still leaves his socks on the floor, by the way. And I don't think that I have griped at him about it in like 9 years. It just doesn't matter to me anymore. So we do retrain our brain every day. We teach our brain how to react tomorrow based on how we react today. So you can teach an old dog new tricks, right? Okay, I know, because I asked that question specifically when someone told me you can retrain your brain. I said, but like till what age, right? Because, I kind of forget what I had for breakfast. So I don't think my brain's clicking all that well all the time. And they said, no. At any age, we are retraining our brain every single day. Okay, so we're going to move on to words. To speak or not to speak? That is the question. So I was asked, I don't know, let's say 7-8 years ago, to speak at an elementary school. Kindergarten through, what were we at? 5th grade. And my kids went to this elementary school. So I felt like I couldn't say no. Everybody, the principal knew that I write about kindness. He knew that I speak about kindness. And so he said, oh, Nicole, come speak to the kids in this gymnasium with them all sitting on the floor, like antsy, like, and I'm thinking to myself, this sounds like the world's worst idea ever. I can barely handle my own 3 kids, much less, 300 kids all in one gym, all at one time, talking about kindness. What can I possibly give them as a tool in order to be kind other than just saying, be kind? Well, the principal was awesome. And he said, we've got these posters all over our school that say, think. They say, think. And, I was like, yes, tell me more. And he said, think refers to this, the first letter of each word. So think is thoughtful, helpful, inspiring, necessary, and kind. So the idea being, before you speak, think. before you use your words, think, is it thoughtful? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? And is it kind? Because even, something as simple as saying to your child, aren't you going to bring a sweatshirt? Has a connotation of, was that said in a thoughtful manner? No, it might be helpful because you're saying, aren't you going to bring a sweatshirt? Which means go get a sweatshirt. But what if we just took a phrase just like that and we twisted it just a little bit and we said, I looked at the weather. It looks like it's going to be pretty chilly today. Do you want me to grab you a sweatshirt? Or even, you might want to grab a sweatshirt because I heard it's going to be really chilly today. Do you see the difference in our tone? Is it thoughtful? Is it helpful? When we ask someone, you're not going to vote for that person, are you? We take away the ability to have a conversation. Because even if we know we disagree with them, we put them on the defensive when we say, you're not going to do that. You don't believe in that, do you? When in reality, I think what we're trying to do is start some sort of a conversation, or perhaps we want to sway them to come over to our way of thinking. So when we can say instead something, helpful or kind, like, can you tell me what you believe? Can you tell me why you believe that? What's played into your history and your upbringing that bring you to that belief? Then all of a sudden, we have opened up the door, we have opened up the gateway for a conversation. And we are using our words with the acronym THINK because we're being thoughtful and helpful, inspiring, necessary, kind. The necessary thing is interesting to me because sometimes, we will, okay, so my kids are really picky eaters. Let me just start with that, okay? And so I have never had my own parents do this to my children, but I have had other people that I'm very close with who are seniors who really get hot. They get really mad about the fact that they'll go have Thanksgiving or Christmas with their grandchildren, and their grandchildren will eat, chicken tenders or Cheerios while the rest of the family is enjoying this bountiful feast. And I have one man in particular that he was a mentor to me forever. He passed away about a year ago. And I remember him saying to me, kindest guy in the whole wide world. And I remember him saying to me, like, I just cannot stand it. It's like it ruins my whole Thanksgiving when I go and I see that they prepared all of this food, and then my grandkids get up and they go throw some chicken tenders in the microwave, and the mom doesn't even say anything. And I let him rant, and then we stopped, and he kind of looked at me and he goes, "That's not good, is it?" And he's 80 years old at the time. And I'm like, I don't know what's good or not good, but I can tell you from another perspective that as the mom, I might just be grateful that we're all here together. And maybe you as the grandparent want to just be grateful that you can all be together. You know what? Your grandkids aren't going to grow up only eating chicken tenders when they're 40 years old. Like, their taste buds will change. It'll all be okay. So it is not necessary in that moment to call out what's wrong with the situation. Instead, we can bring gratitude into it, and we can think before we speak. That's the beauty of thinking to yourself. Is it thoughtful? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Right? So I'm just gonna pause here right before we, I have one more piece of homework for you though. So we're gonna talk about thinking about what you're thinking about, right? We're gonna find a mantra or a scripture or something to keep with us to replace our thoughts. We're gonna do this third thing. Before you fall asleep each night, as you lay your head on the pillow, think to yourself, how did I use my words to encourage another person today? And be able to think specifically, who was the person I encouraged today with my words? Okay, so I want to just take a quick look and see, and maybe I can even call Barb. Hey, Barb, before we do, before we do one more actions, we talk about actions. Are there any questions or anything that I should be looking at here in the chat? Oh, I love this. A great thing about having this at home is I can put these phrases on our vision board, which my husband and I look at every day. It's our goals, our inspiration, our dreams. How cool is that, Barb?
That's exactly what I was going to tell you, that I'm very curious. There's been some other people commented too that they were curious about what a vision board is. So
that's really neat, Angie. That's really cool, Angie Westwick. Thank you for that. Michelle says, I caught her in the act of trying to throw in a load of laundry. We are so predictable. Yeah, no, and the only reason I say it is because if I didn't have to be on here, I would be upstairs doing something, right? Like housekeeping. It's craziness. Okay, we got one more message. Oh, it is God's grace that guides us to think. Thanks for a great acronym. And then Jen said, maybe Angie can share a picture of her vision board. I'm not sure if you can put pictures on there or not, but Angie, if you would be willing in, a little while when we open up for more comments and stories, maybe if you want to come on camera, I don't know. Barb, can we talk Angie into it?
That happen if she doesn't mind. Absolutely.
Okay, I'm not calling you out, Angie. I'm not going to make you nervous, but people are really interested in this vision board, so that's really cool. Okay, Barb, I am going to talk now about actions. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my screen share here. Don't mind me while I talk to myself. Does anybody else talk to themselves when they do things? Is it just me? Okay, actions. People get confused all the time about kindness. And I think especially as women, we get confused all the time about kindness because we think to ourselves, I'm constantly being kind. I am constantly giving someone a ride. I am constantly checking on the neighbor. I am constantly sending out, a birthday card. And they think that it's the kindness that's sucking them dry. Like you might think, I have nothing left to give because I am kind all the time and it's sucking me dry. Well, friends, that is not kindness. That is called duty. So if you've read in The Negativity Remedy, which, by the way, again, people who are commenting and saying hello or doing anything in the chat will be registered to win one of 2 copies of The Negativity Remedy that Barb will pick after this event. So again, keep the chat, keep the comments coming. But duty versus delight is one of the concepts I talk about in the book. And I think it's really important, especially for us women, because we are helpers, right? We are helpers. And so we might send our mother-in-law a birthday card and sign it from our husband and from everybody else and throw it in the mail because we have to. Because we know it's the right thing to do. So that falls under the category of duty. When we feel inspired and we feel like, refreshed, like our cup was just filled, and we have delight, that is kindness. I'm going to stop sharing here. Oh, here it is. Thanks for being so patient with me with this technology stuff. I want to tell you a story about duty versus delight because I really, really want you to get this. When I had cancer in 2015, I like to say that I had a really positive attitude. I knew that if God was going to allow breast cancer to touch my life, in who knew how big of a role that would take in my life. But I knew if God was going to allow that to touch my life, then there was going to be purpose for it, and that I was going to be able to use my experience to help other women someday. So most of the time I had God's vision for this trial right at the forefront of my mind, but sometimes I didn't. And I remember waking up at 4:30 in the morning one morning and rolling over and looking out my window, and there was a thunderstorm out there. It was loud, it was crackling, these bright bolts of lightning. And I love a good thunderstorm, but on that day, it just seemed to echo what I was feeling in my heart and in my soul, which was just this storm, this why me, bleh. And I remember as I was laying there feeling depleted, that I started to think about a woman who was living just down the hill in our neighbor's front lawn. She was living in a tent. She was a recovering drug addict, and she had gone through treatment and really had the drive and the perspective of someone who wanted to turn her life around. And so she was doing whatever it took. And so she was living in the tent on the front lawn because she could live there rent-free. She was getting up at 4:30 every morning and walking across town, rain or shine, to her job at a dry cleaners. And on this particular day, 4:30 in the morning, I look at the storm and I think, oh, I wonder if Dawn is walking in this right now. I should get up and help her. Maybe I could call her an Uber or a cab. Maybe I can just ask her if she needs help another day. And then I started getting upset because I was like, you're having this conversation with God saying, you know what? I'm depleted. I have nothing left to give. This cancer has kicked us in the teeth emotionally and physically and financially, and I have nothing left to give. And so if you think that I got out of bed and I put on my robe and I went to give Dawn a ride in the middle of the thunderstorm, then you're giving me way too much credit, because that's not what I did. Nope. I rolled over and I went back to sleep. And I woke up later in the day, and I still had this sort of pity party going in my mind, but I was carrying on with my day. And about 2:00 in the afternoon, I was driving downtown, and I saw Dawn walking home from work. And I pulled over and I said, hey, Dawn, do you want to ride home? And she said, no, it's a beautiful day now. I'm going to walk. And I said, did you walk to work this morning? And she said, yeah, it was kind of wet. And I said, are you still walking to work every morning? And as I'm asking these questions, I'm thinking to myself, no, Nick, like, don't ask. You know you don't want to help. You know there's nothing you can do to help this woman right now, or nothing you're willing to do to help this woman right now. Don't ask. And yet I asked. And Dawn said to me, yeah, I'm still walking, but I'm going to have enough money saved up. I think by the time I get my next paycheck that I'll be able to buy a bike. So that'll really cut down on the commute. And I thought to myself, you need a bike? I have a bike. And so I said, Dawn, I have a bike. It's sitting in the garage. No one uses it. Come and get it. So a couple hours later, she came. She showed up in my driveway, and I rolled out the bike. And it was really interesting because she had been beaten down by the world so much that she couldn't even really stand up straight. Her shoulders were slunched over. Her hair was down kind of in her face. And she looked up at me and kind of took the bike, and she's like, well, thanks. This will be really helpful. And I'll bring it back as soon as I can afford to buy one. And I said, no. The bike is a gift. Like, I want you to have it. Keep it. And she looked at me so suspiciously, and she said, why would you do that for me? And I said, well, because I hadn't really thought about it. I said, well, I see how hard you're working to change your life. And I imagine it's a daily struggle. And I don't know what kind of support you're getting, but I just want you to know that I see you and I care about you. And I think what you're doing is amazing. But more than me seeing you and caring about you, I know that God sees you and he cares about you. So take the bike. Well, she rode away on her bike and I turned around to walk back up my driveway. And in that moment, there was no cancer in my body. And all of that, I should do this, I should help in this way, all those sorts of thoughts were gone. My pity party was gone, all of it. Because in that moment, kindness wasn't a duty, something I had assigned to myself that I have to do. Kindness was a delight. I got to share something I had with this woman who was making a radical transformation in her life. I got to be part of her story. So kindness will not take from you more than you have to give. It will not deplete you, but it is going to ask for something in return. It's going to ask you to be brave. It's going to ask you to courageously step out of your comfort zone and talk to somebody who might be different than you. It is going to risk you having friends say, what's that all about? It's going to risk embarrassment. It's going to risk tears. It's going to risk rejection because someone might reject your kindness. You're going to have people in your life that don't understand. So kindness will ask for something, but in return, it will always fill you back up. It will always fill your cup. And it will always leave you wanting to do it again. And it will always leave you feeling like if everyone knew what this felt like, everyone would want to try it and kindness would be contagious. Duty versus delight. That's kindness in our actions. So now we really, really want to hear from you. I want to hear some of your stories. We have a way to be able to get in here and be able to share some of those things. I'm going to take a look at comments as well. Christy says she just started making a vision board yesterday. See, so we're all interested in this vision board, Angie. So let us know. Sherry says, hi, Nicole, Sherry Finke and Christine Moore here. We rented a room in Alexandria, Minnesota, just to listen to you together. Like, I wish you would have told me because I would have come and presented from the hotel room. How fun would that have been? Absolutely awesome. Thank you to the presentation sisters. Oh, awesome. That is super, super cool. Thanks for sharing your heart and real life feelings and experiences. You are right. People do reject, but God is good and he works in us. God working through you, Nicole. Thank you. Okay. So someone said, did you ever use Think to speak to the elementary school kids? And yes, I did. And I'm going to be completely honest. I love speaking to elementary or middle or high school teachers. But I don't know does it make me a bad person, Barb, that I love to speak to teachers, especially of little ones. But I did. And I once in a while will speak to elementary school students, but I really feel like it's teachers and parents who can really infuse those ideas. But on this particular one, I did not embarrass my children. I went and we used that acronym of THINK, and I had a big poster board, and on it I had a big T, and then below it I had the word think, but it was covered with balloons. So then I got to bring kids up, and they got to pop the balloon. Those who weren't afraid of loud noises, we warned them. And so we would talk about what does the T mean, and then we would pop the balloon, and they got to see the T meant thoughtful. And so it was really a fun time. So anyway, okay, Barb. Who do we have that wants to share a time when they felt refreshed by an act of kindness, or a time when they needed kindness and it was there? My mom said that she would share, but who else do we have, Barb? Who do you want to start with?
Sarah is ready to share too. So if Sarah wants to go first, I know her and Jordy are ready.
Woo, let's do it. Sarah.
So Sarah, you can go ahead and.
Sarah's on my kindness team right now. Hi, Sarah. Thank you for.
My name's Sarah. I'm on Nicole's kindness team, and I would love to share a kindness story if that's okay. I've been trying to get my favorite furry friend photo ready. Come here, Jordy. I have to bribe him, so just give me a minute. Jordy. So my story is about, it has to do with Jordy. Here's Jordy. And Jordy is a Labradoodle. He's about 120 pounds. He's very food motivated.
Thank you.
So yeah, I don't know how to switch the computer so you can see him the whole time. But my story is about when I go exercising, I take Jordy with me and we go running kind of around a neighborhood. And I've been doing that for quite a long time. But one day I noticed this lady, she looked like she was in her like late 60s, early 70s. And she was saying something to me and I couldn't hear her because I wear headphones when I'm running. So I pulled out my headphones and looked at her and she said, "Oh, your dog looks tired." And that's kind of a joke because Jordy is usually leading the way when we start out exercising, but after about 20 or 30 minutes, I'm usually dragging him. I'll put the camera back on him since I'm talking about him. So that was great, you know, and this is kind of over the last couple months, I would run by her house and sometimes I would see this lady and sometimes, you know, she wouldn't be there. But one day I noticed that she had left a bowl out by her mailbox and it was a little Cool Whip container. So this would have been probably in like July. And it was a little Cool Whip container full of water. And when Jordy and I went running by that day, she came out and she said, "Oh, I wanted to leave some water out for Jordy." And pretty much for the last 2 months now, she has been leaving water out, fresh water. And when we go running by, Jordy knows to look for that water. And I just, she's my new friend. Her name's Sue. And it's just meant so much to me that, you know, even being on the kindness team and hearing a lot of kindness stories, the fact that my sweet neighbor Sue, who I didn't know before, would take time out of her morning to make sure the water is fresh for tired Jordy, just makes me feel like she's noticing me and she cares about me, cares about my dog. She doesn't know this, but she's very encouraging for me to keep running, which right now is kind of a tough thing to do as we go into winter. So I just wanted to share that story and tell you, Nicole, you're doing a great job. Barb, thank you. And thanks for letting me share.
Talk about how that act of kindness became contagious.
Oh yeah. So, well, one more thing with that, Sue recently had cataract surgery in her eyes. So I knew the surgery was coming up. So the one day that she was scheduled for the surgery, I now have her text her phone number and I text her and say, you know, I'm thinking about you for your surgery. But when she had to have her second one done in the other eye, I noticed the water was fresh in the bowl. And I thought to myself, here is a lady that has a lot of things going on medically, a lot of appointments to keep track of and COVID tests when she's going to the doctor. And she still remembered fresh water for Jordy. And then one of the times when I was talking to her, she told me that her neighbor, a few houses down, had been walking her dog by Sue's house, saw the dog bowl, loved that her dog could get a drink of water by the mailbox. And now her neighbor, who's like around the corner, has started doing that for people that walk by her house. So that's the beautiful contagious part, is just because of Sue's idea, a simple act, you know, someone else noticed, it affected them, and now she's doing it too.
So cool. So cool. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you.
Barb, will you find Jean McGovern for me while I share something on my screen?
I will.
Okay. Angie, I'm going to pull this up for us. Angie shared the link for the vision board. It's developgoodhabits.com. and then I think it's /vision board. But a vision board, basically, these are some ideas that people had, but it's the idea of reflecting, collecting, assembling, and displaying some of your ideas. So for me, like, I'm not nearly creative enough to do the pink one. that was so pretty coming out of the lady's head. But this is something that would look like for me personally, you know, like you could do 2021 goals, and then you find things that, you know, you can cut them out, you can write them on a piece of paper. They don't have to be fancy, but they just, you hear things and you're like, that's what I want to move toward. It's kind of like my 9 words where I, you know, love, joy, peace, patience. Those were my things. This person wants to laugh more. They want to make $80,000. Okay. I like that vision. An intention vision board, you know, their mindset, happiness, feel the joy, spirit. So this one made one for their family. They've got their home life with their love, with their family, and just the rest of life, things that they want to probably keep at the front of their mind for gratitude and that sort of thing. So thank you, Angie, for sharing that. Again, developgoodhabits.com, vision-board-ideas.
And I have Jean. So Jean, if you want to unmute and if you want to turn your video on, you sure can.
This is my mom.
Yay, I heard she was on.
Hi, Mama.
Hi, Mom.
See, we couldn't have done this if this was in person. I mean, you have come to see my in-person things before. Usually every fall my mom comes to visit, but yeah. So anyway, this is pretty cool to be able to see it like this, Mom. Okay, what's your kindness story?
Well, around Labor Day, that weekend, I decided to do something really kind. And can you believe all through September, it continues to bring me joy.
What is it?
So, around the corner from where I live on the highway, there's a memorial for a young man that was speeding one rainy night on his motorcycle, and he crashed, and he must have been previously a veteran in the service, because somebody arranged a memorial with a cross and some flags and some flowers. And what I noticed in August as I would drive past there is the grass was just so overgrown you couldn't see anything. There had been some plastic flowers, but they were all blown over. And so I went to the dollar store and I bought some red, white, and blue flowers. And I took a clippers and I went parked alongside off the road, and I clipped all the grass, and I straightened the cross, I pulled the flags up. I couldn't get it. I tried to get a new one, but I couldn't. But there were some flags, so I sort of set them back up, and I put my pretty flowers in there. And now every time I go by there, it's just so uplifting to see what I did to celebrate this young man.
Wow, Mom. And she never even told me this before. So this is the first time I'm hearing this too. Wow. Wow. I love that. I love that. I love it. And I love that you would share it. And now I feel like I need to write that in my column. So you got to write that down for me, Mom, so I can put it in my column.
We'll save it. We'll save the video.
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding. I can read the video. I can jot down from the video the whole story. Mom, one side note, you are Catholic and you are part of a lay group. Say the words.
I'm a Franciscan, a lay Franciscan, okay. Right.
Okay. Okay. Because when I think of presentation people, like I think of you, Mom, like you are 100% in, and bringing the light to the world. So Thank you. Thanks for joining us, Mama, and thanks for sharing.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. Who else do we have who wants to share, Barb?
Well, you know what? I think I might share something quickly.
Good. Okay.
Because Sarah is on and she could put her video on if she wanted to. But my grandma dad instilled in me the importance of writing notes and handwritten notes and journaling. And so I do that for others and send cards and have a girl this year who went off to college and was all by herself and sent her cards. And last week in the mail, I get this sweet little card from Sarah.
My Sarah?
From your Sarah.
Oh.
It was just to let me know that I am grateful to you. And it came, of course, when there was maybe multiple Zoom crisis going on that week, trying to get everything planned. But it was just the most perfect thing that arrived for me that day. And I don't, often I always feel like this is so important to send notes as a part of my job. So I do that on a daily basis, but to get one in return and know that it was sent with such kind and heartfelt and encouraging words just meant a ton to me. So
awesome. My prayer for all of you today, we're going to break for a little bit, but my prayer for all of you, I'm looking at my schedule. Is that what we're doing next, Barb?
We sure can for a little bit. Yep. People might need a little break and.
Yep. So in 1 minute, we're going to take a break, but I just want to tell you what my prayer is for all of you as I'm seeing the comments and I'm feeling all this is my prayer for each one of you who is listening and who is joining us today is that you would be surrounded by the types of women that I'm surrounded by. And there is, we have to seek out those people. We have to be those people. We have to develop those relationships. But I pray that God will bring someone to your life right now. God, I'm asking you to bring someone to each of these women who is that special person, who is that special friend, the one that they can feel like they have a personal cheerleader who just loves them as they are. And in the name of Jesus, I pray that for every one of you, because may you have that, may you be that, may we all be that. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. We do have lots of, different comments, and we'll kind of go through those on break and see if there's anything that we need to bring up. One of our sisters was actually a secular Franciscan as well in Milwaukee. So Sister Peggy Bain commented that. So
that's cool. My mom lived in Milwaukee. She retired and moved to Vero Beach when she was about 69. So now she gets to be on the beach.
So, hey,
I know.
That sounds pretty good. So,
yeah.
But yes, we will take a break here. We just, for our break, we'll go about 15 minutes and we'll just play. We've got some kindness stories and just a video to show to take up the time, but feel free to fill your cup, not with kindness, but with coffee and grab a snack and hold on for the next part of our journey. Welcome back, ladies. If you all want to make sure your cups are filled and your snacks are with you, we will be ready to there you go. Here we go.
We got it.
I'm inspiring hope on my end.
Mine says kindness is contagious. What does yours say, Sarah?
Mine is a Christmas mug. I'm ready for Christmas. It just says merry and bright.
Oh, love it. And Barb's inspiring hope. Love it. Okay. Mine's steaming.
Right. Without further ado, I'll just let you rolling on.
Okay. Well, let's see though. Were there any comments that came in, Barb, that we want to talk about? Wonderful morning. So glad to be able to share it. I hope all those I invited get to watch these videos. Just came across this from scripture. Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. I love that from Proverbs 31.
We have just had a lot of love, of course, and that the morning has been exactly what people have needed, and that they are filling their cups for sure. So it's exactly what what others have needed. And just for the people that have asked for to repeat words or phrases or things like that, we are recording the event today, so we can make that link available so you can watch it as many times as you want and get your fill over and over and over again of Nicole. So we can send that out afterwards. We'll go through the comments and see where there's some questions, and maybe I'll get with you too, Nicole, if there's some slides.
Yeah,
with
for sure. It's all yours. You can have it all. It's so funny though, because I feel like people are gonna be like, no more, Nicole, stop sharing the video.
No, people are now, they're saying yes, yay to the video being recorded. So I'm glad that we can make that available. So
yes. Okay. Well, I'll take it away then, Barb, because we have part 2 of Kindness is Contagious. Are you catching it? And really, we're talking about being the light in this dark world that so many times we feel like we have no control. There's nothing that little old me can do to help the world at all, but make a radical difference. But the fact is that the light of Jesus shines in each one of us. So when we think about what we're thinking about, when we reject and replace those negative thoughts with the mantra, something that we know we're going to say instead. What was the other homework I gave you? I'm looking to see. Let's see. I want you to, think about when you lay your head on the pillow each night about who you encourage with your words. So thoughts, words, and actions. And so we talked about the thoughts, words, and actions. And I think that sometimes we wonder why us, like why does it have to be me? Because I need to protect myself right now. I need to protect my family. Like the world's crazy, right? Or I'm overwhelmed and I can only do this much. And so why does it really matter what happens in my thoughts and my words and my actions? As long as I'm not hurting anybody else, my thoughts, my words, my actions, why does that matter? And I think it's because if the world is going to change, it has to start with us. That woman I was 10 years ago, full of negativity, drinking rum and cokes every night, could have set the stage for 3 small kids who grew up with an alcoholic mother, right? And even if it wasn't any sort of an addiction issue in our household, even if that hadn't been there, at the very least, my behavior and the way that I looked at the things and the way that I spoke would have set the stage for how my children view the world. And, I want them to see themselves as being powerful in this world, because they are, because you all are. That's the light of Jesus inside of us, right? Like it's nothing we don't have to go around bragging about it, because the light of Jesus is inside of us. And to be able to grab hold of that with our thoughts and our words and our actions matters so much. But here's the thing. We think it might just matter as far as, us, for other people, to help other people. But in Proverbs 11:17, God's word tells us a man who is kind benefits himself, but a cruel man hurts himself. So even if we take the second half of it and just not worry, because, I'm sure you're not out there being cruel, right? But let's look at the first half of that. A man who is kind benefits himself. So God not only gave us that verse, but he also gives us this guidance. I'm going to pop to the next one here. Feed the hungry and help those in trouble. Then your light will shine out from the darkness, and the darkness around you will be as bright as noon. Feed the hungry, help those in trouble. Then your light will shine out from the darkness, and the darkness around you will be as bright as noon. So I feel like what God's saying is your thoughts, your words, your actions are going to help you. they're going to start by lighting the pathway around you. The kind man benefits himself because the light that's radiating from you will light your way as well. Isn't that something else? But when I first looked at this verse, I took it really literally. Feed the hungry and help those in trouble. And this was a problem for me because I have made lasagna 3 times, and 2 times I forgot to put the lasagna noodles in the dish. And 1 time, just last year, I made lasagna for my husband, and he vomited all night long. So if I have to feed the hungry in the literal sense, I'm in big trouble, because that is not spreading the light of Jesus to anybody. So feed the hungry and help those in trouble. I don't need to cook for people when they come to me or when I bump into them. I don't need to cook for them. And, you know, the ones who are in trouble, I don't need to find a solution. So, you know, as I began to study this, my view changed of it to feed the hungry. You know, everybody's hungry. Aren't we all hungry? We're hungry for love and affection and attention, and not in a selfish way even, but we want to know, we're hungry to know that God is here and he is real and he hears us and he cares. And I think we're hungry to know that other people in the world are good and that they are here and they care. And if something were to happen, we would be supported. And so I feel like we're all hungry. I had a woman who came to my house in Ohio when we lived there a couple of years ago. I invited her. She was a widow. She was about 35 years old or 40 years old, and the mom of 2 almost teenage boys. And so her sons were friends with my son. And we were out at an after school activity, but it was a Saturday morning. And I knew we had the rest of Saturday open for whatever. And so some little nudge inside of me said, you know, like, why don't you invite her over? Make friends. And I can start thinking, as I'm sure a lot of us can, we can start thinking of all the reasons why we shouldn't. Like, you know what? My house is filthy. I didn't even think about having guests over. So, you know, the place is a mess. And, you know, I don't even think I have any food in the house. If I did want to feed her something edible, like what would that even be? And, you know, I kind of wanted to take a nap in the afternoon. And so if she comes over, what if she doesn't leave? You know, what if I'm stuck? Has anybody else been there? Please if you've been there, just put it in the chat so I know that I'm not alone. Besides, here's the other exciting thing. Anybody who chats anything in the chat is going to be registered to win one of 2 negativity remedies, which is my new book. So put it in the chat and please let me know. I'm going to look right now and see if anybody is telling me that they have been there. Yes, 3 dogs in our home. I often feel that way. Been there, done that. Yeah. Okay. So thank you. So I know I'm not alone. So I feel this voice saying to me, or just this feeling like I should invite her into my home with her boys. And so I just said to her, hey, do you want to come over and, you know, I can swing by and grab some pizzas, or we can have pizzas delivered and we can just visit while the kids all play. And she was like, yeah, I'd love that. And so without apologizing for my dirty home or anything else, she came and we had a really great time. The boys all ran around, ate pizza, and, you know, so I didn't have to cook or anything. And we sat there and we visited, and it was really interesting because I learned that her husband had died, 7-10 years before that from cancer. And we started talking about God. Now, I had no idea of her belief system one way or the other, but somehow we were talking about a little boy who is in town that that was going through a really rough time. And so I was telling her how I was praying for this kid, not one of her kids, just another kid in town, but that I just told her, I'm praying for him. And I just feel this burden for him to continue to pray. And I said, and it was amazing because I'm praying for him. And I hear God say, when I say, God, help him, please help him. I said to her, I really felt God say to me, I am. And those words are really special to me because I am is what God calls himself. That is his name, the great I am. But it is also God saying to me, I am. I'm listening. I'm hearing your prayers, and I am working in the life of that child, whether you know it or not, Nick. And so I'm sharing this with her. And as I say that I'm praying for him, and I felt God, really just impress upon me, I am, she rolled her eyes. One of those. And I didn't say anything. I didn't call her out on it because it's not my job to call her out on it. I was just sharing something that was important to me. But as we continue to talk, after I had shared that, she said, I'm really mad at God. I'm stuck raising 2 boys on my own because for some reason my husband had to get cancer and he died. So, that doesn't make sense to me. And I said, doesn't make sense to me either. And she said, but it's funny because my husband, before he died, he said to me, I'm going to heaven and I want you to join me there someday. So please find Jesus. She said this to me. And then she said, I can't. And so in that moment, I was able to bring the light of Jesus into that room because I know he was there. And I was able to say to her, I will stand in the gap for you. And I will pray that God makes himself so real to you that you have no choice but to know Jesus. And we cried, we hugged a little bit. And so in that moment, God was there. I fed the hungry. I helped those who were in trouble because I didn't care what my house looked like. And I didn't care that I'm a terrible cook. I just wanted to show up. And so I can tell you that the light that shined around me was as bright as noon for me. The kind man benefits himself. Instead of worrying about all of the other things, what the world's going to think about you, and are you not good enough a housekeeper? Do you not have your schedule perfectly planned out? Or would you rather take a nap? All of those things can allow us to just stay in the darkness instead of turning around and saying, you know what, I don't have much to give, but I'll do what I can to feed the hungry and to help those in trouble. Because we're all in trouble all the time, really. I mean, and even if it's not a sense of trouble, we're all in need of grace, right? We're all in need of some grace, all in need of some mercy. And we can listen to somebody without offering a solution. And maybe you'll find, just like my story of Dawn with the bike, maybe you will find that you have the solution without even knowing it. But even if you don't, just to lean in and to be there and to listen is so important. We give a moment to someone, a moment of our time to them, to the person who is in front of us, and we're feeding them. We give a moment of our time and we are shining light into their darkness, and we're shining light into our own darkness. So this is interesting because to me, God created us as the receiver to be blessed, but as he says, the kind man benefits himself. So the receiver is blessed by kindness, but the giver is blessed by kindness. It even says more blessed to give than receive, right? But God also created that light to shine out around everyone else who is part of that act of kindness. And so I want to show you, I'm going to pop back into this screen here. So I can show you this. The giver, the receiver, and the witness all benefit from our act of kindness. Kindness works as a trifecta. So you do an act of kindness, the person, you feel great about it, right? And then the person that you have helped might think, oh, there's such great people in the world. And then, okay, so let's take an example. Barb showed us her card that Sarah had sent her, encouraging her in the week before this big event. So Sarah, I know Sarah, so I know Sarah felt great by sending it. That made her happy. It tickled her to send that note to Barb. Barb gets the note and she feels great because Sarah thought of her and talked to her in that moment where she needed it. But then Barb just shared this story with all of us. And I don't know about you, but I felt great hearing that happen and knowing that, oh gosh, how thoughtful are people? So the giver, the receiver, and the witness, it all works as a trifecta. So, but what's actually happening in our body for you science junkies out there too? I love it when science and God's word line up so perfectly, and they do in the realm of kindness, because there are 4 feel-good chemicals that are released into the body during an act of kindness. And you get the benefits of those, whether you are the giver, the receiver, or the witness to that act of kindness. And so let's talk about what some of them are. Endorphins, that's your body's natural painkiller. So we get a runner's high when we exercise because the endorphins kick in. We get that flight or fight sort of feeling going with our endorphins. And so they kick in during kindness because sometimes we're not sure, is this act of kindness taking me out of my comfort zone? Is it, I don't know what's going to happen next. I'm on edge a little bit. And so the endorphins with their fight or flight reflex kick out those pain relievers. The second is serotonin, and serotonin is our body's antidepressant. It's also an anti-anxiety chemical. And serotonin kicks in during an act of kindness, even if that act of kindness is not physically happening right in front of you. Even if it's something you read about on social media, a story you watch on television, or, you know, any sort of book you read, anything that you can put yourself in this storyline of because you're bringing it into your brain, serotonin is released. Dopamine is the feeling of being rewarded. It's this idea that kindness lights up the pleasure center of the brain as if we were the person receiving the kindness ourselves. So that's exciting. Dopamine is also the reason why people will lean on retail therapy. Like you buy something you don't really need because it feels good. Or maybe, you know, you eat a pint of Ben & Jerry's because you had a really rough day and you just want to be like feeling good and feeling rewarded. So that's dopamine, and kindness has a great dopamine effect. And then oxytocin is interesting because oxytocin releases chemicals that dilate your blood vessels. So oxytocin actually lowers your blood pressure, but oxytocin is also known as the cuddle hormone. It's that hormone that just makes you feel like you're being like touched, like warm and loved. And so we get these 4 feel-good chemicals regardless of whether you are the giver, the receiver, or the witness to that act of kindness. So when we ask people to go ahead and, you know, share something, that they've done and how it made them feel. Like my mom sharing the story of clipping the grass. Can't you just see her out there on her knees, like clipping the grass around this cross and putting flowers there? Those sorts of things, you know, sometimes we're too embarrassed to share. Sometimes we think, oh, well, I don't want to tell anybody I did that. But the great thing about sharing your kindness with others is that it reminds us that, you know, superheroes don't wear capes. You don't have to be the wealthiest. You don't have to have the most time. You don't have to, you know, have the most energy to be the person to go out and do something and to make a difference. That each of us in our own way is able to participate in kindness. So that's pretty special. So where do we get that first light? What sparks it in us? Well, the Holy Spirit living inside of you is that light. So if you feel like, I just don't have that light within me, you do. You already do. And I'd like to take you for just a moment back into that dark room. Remember that dark room that we talked about? It's damp, it's musty, it's cold. You know, there's this black void right there that's nothingness. And yet it's worse than nothingness because it forces us to cower in the corner and be afraid of other people because we're so afraid of what might happen if we reach out to touch somebody else. And, you know, whoa, if we reach out and we feel something slimy or something bites us, or it could be anything. You know, we're afraid in that room of our captors, afraid of what we can see, afraid of what we cannot see. And then we feel alone. And as we talked about, that's how some people see the world. So if that's how you see the world yourself, then let me remind you again that the Holy Spirit is living inside of you. And the Holy Spirit is that light, that first bit of light. So you all have a candle. We can pull out that candle. And we can shine that light, and something amazing happens. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness can never extinguish it. Think about that for a second. If you're in a room that's totally dark, it could be a big room, it could be a little room, it doesn't matter. But if you're in a room that's totally dark and somebody lights a candle, even on the far side of the room, you will see the glow. Right? Maybe the room is full of boxes and it's, you know, it's a storage room of some sort. If someone lights a candle, you will see it glowing from behind the boxes. If someone puts that light under a bushel basket, which, you know, God tells us, don't put your light under a bushel basket, let the whole world see it. But even if it's under the bushel basket, the light will shine through the cracks. That light is your kindness. That light is your kindness. And so what happens? Maybe you smile at someone and you share your light. And then that person has caught your light. And maybe they write a note to someone that they haven't talked to in a long time that they want to encourage. And then they're sending their light to another person. And maybe that person, having caught the light, treats a stranger to lunch. And all of a sudden, we are lighting candles all over the room, and the room is bright because that light not only shines in the darkness, but it continues to grow and it continues to spread, and giving your light to somebody else is not going to diminish your light. Your light continues to shine no matter how many times you give it away. And when we look at that verse feed the hungry, help those in trouble, then your light will shine out from the darkness, and the darkness around you will be as bright as noon. The darkness around you will be as bright as noon. So whether we are in that room or we're out in our world, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot extinguish it. And so be that light. And when someone offers you the opportunity to accept their light, say yes. Because they are trying to spread light. They are not trying to get into a kindness duel with you of, I'll give you this, and then you send me a gift back, and then I'll send you a thank you note, and then you send me a thank you note back. No. Let people give you their light, and give people your light as well. Well, I am very, very happy that we got to talk today, but we're not done yet. We're going to take a look at some of the comments. We're going to bring Barb back. We're going to share some more stories and answer questions. So, Barb, what have you noticed from the comments and questions? Is there anything that we need to address, or do we have people who want to share stories? And you can also, if you want to share a kindness story, put it in the chat, please. Put it in there, and then we'll be able to look.
We do have a couple that volunteered to share if there was time. So if anybody objects to, maybe going over a couple minutes, if we have too many, but we had a question from Brooke Nicholson, so we can get to that in just a minute, but we also had a couple kindness stories that we could share as well. So I will go out and find those two here quick.
This is funny. I see Michelle said, well, Diane said, can you talk more about the negativity remedy? What's in it? How do you recommend to use it? Does it come in large print? Okay, it does not come in large print. However, it does come in an Audible version and a Kindle version, which if you do it on your phone or on a tablet, then you can make that print as large as you want. The negativity remedy really digs into reject and replace, the duty versus delight, all of the tools that I teach about, because today I get to sit here and spread the light of Jesus with you. But many times when I speak, I go out into businesses and I go into the corporate world and I use the practices of Jesus. I use this teaching about the transformative power of kindness, and I use that to teach people how to create a better life, really. Through this transformative power of kindness. So you're going to find that in the negativity remedy. I do have, if you're looking for just short stories of kindness, I have two books called Kindness is Contagious and Kindness is Courageous. And both of them have 100 stories in them that are just short 3-minute stories of kindness that you could use as a devotional in the morning, or maybe something to settle down as you go to bed at night. But I really, really, really encourage you to read the negativity remedy. This is my passion. It is my absolute mission in life to be able to help people bridge that gap between living life and loving life, because I know it's possible and it starts in your thoughts. So please read the negativity remedy.
And just so the sisters know, I have purchased the negativity remedy for both of the libraries at the residence in Aberdeen and in Sioux Falls. So the books will be coming to you, so you will have access to them as well.
Excellent.
So
cool.
I'm going to, we'll start with Judy. Judy is from Fargo, so I will have her unmute. And if you want to share with your video too, Judy, you can sure do that.
There we go.
Hi, Judy. Good to see you.
Hi. I was fortunate enough to meet you in Fargo, Nicole, a few years ago at Echo Chic.
So I love it, Maria's store. It's so good.
And so I have both your books, and I've read both. I refer to them frequently because if I want to feel good, I read your books. So,
thanks,
but
Judy.
What I wanted to share today was I am an associate with the Presentation Sisters in Fargo.
Oh, cool.
And there are probably about 30 sisters. And of course, since about the middle of March, they have been completely, shut off. And we attend services there. My husband and I do Catholic services there. And so we have this wonderful woman who is the head of the associates. Kathy Hogan is her name. And she had this idea for Pentecost that we would have a Pentecost parade. So what we did, because none of us had ever had seen the sisters in person. So what we did was there were about 30 vehicles and we lined up along the road, and we had the cars decorated in red, and we had signs and everything. And then each one of us chose a sister and brought a special gift for the sister. So one of the sisters within the convent was in on the surprise. And so after Mass on that Sunday, she brought them all out, and there's a parking lot, and then there's a circular driveway. So they had them way up on the circular driveway, far away from us. And they were all sitting out there wondering what was happening. And then we started this wonderful parade. And one of the associates has a motorcycle, so she led the parade. My husband has a bright red pickup, so another associate and I were sitting in the back of the pickup in lawn chairs, and we were waving. And then as we drove up to the front, there was a table. And so each one of us lifted up our gift and yelled out the sister's name that it was for, and they put it on the table there. And then afterwards, we all parked and came back and stayed, way into the parking lot, and we sang songs and waved to them and told them how wonderful it was to see them. So it was a wonderful parade. It was a wonderful idea. And since then, we've been doing Zoom chats once a week with the sisters too. So it kind of keeps us in touch. It's not as good as being there, but as good as it can get right now. So,
yeah. Judy, we did this with our sisters too for an Easter parade. We did that.
Yes, you did Easter parade. Wonderful. And they so appreciate it because they really depend on us to, I don't know, just to be there. I know I get messages all the time from them. Do you know how much I miss you? Do you know how much I want to see you? And
that is the true benefit of working and being associated with them.
Yes, I agree. It's wonderful.
So,
thanks for sharing, Judy. I appreciate that.
Thank you for this wonderful conference.
All right, next we have Shannon Ryan that has a story to share.
And Shannon is like, Shannon, tell people where they can find you on social media, because Shannon, you just light up Facebook with goodness. That's just what you do, right? You do. I mean, it's amazing. So I can't wait to hear your story.
Well, what Nicole's talking about is a group that I have on Facebook that I actually started with a friend. I have a testimony actually that I shared at Spark Joy that kind of tells how this even came about. And it was a very God moment, like Nicole talked about, having that nudge, inviting that mom over. That was a nudge moment for me. So maybe I'll share that testimony in the link, but it's what got our whole group started. The group is called Ready, Set, Grow, and it has turned into something that I never could have imagined. And Nicole, when you were talking about in the very beginning, when you said there's, something that you have that you need to share, and, you have to follow that. And I literally got shaky because I just have these moments where I think, who am I to be sharing this stuff? Mm-hmm. Who am I? I'm a stay-at-home mom in Aberdeen, South Dakota, So I just that hit me really hard because this group that I help to run is just something that's my passion. It's become my passion, but I constantly question myself as to why I'm doing it and if I am qualified to be doing it. So thanks for mentioning that. And I'll share the link for the group in the comments. But the kind of story I want to share is actually about my son. He is turning 16 this month. And last year, he shared something with me that kind of blew me away. You know how you have those moments, Nicole, when your kids do something and you're like, did I teach them that? Oh my gosh. Did
they good or bad, Shannon? Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. Like, yay.
So when it's good, isn't it a shocker?
That's so great. Yes.
So we have this kind of tradition that we've gone a little lax on, but Friday movie night, and the kids go to the dollar store and get their candy. And now that Sam can drive, he drives to the dollar store, and he's very frugal with his money, not frugal in not wanting to spend it, but frugal in wanting to just spend it on himself. Yeah. So when he started to buy candy for the whole family, it was kind of cool. And I thought, we're taking a step in the right direction here. So one day he says to me something about buying something for the person in line behind him. And I thought, I didn't quite get what he was saying. And I was trying to get him to clarify, because I thought, this is so unlike this child. And he proceeds to tell me that for the past month or so, when he goes on his Friday candy runs, he has started paying for people in line behind him with his own money that he earned, which was the shocker of it all. So he tells me the story from that particular Friday. He wasn't trying to brag. This is something that I think about with kindness. When people share what the kindness is that they're doing, some people look at that and say, oh, they're being narcissistic, or they're, you know, it's not really doing kindness if you tell people about it. I have kind of an opposing view of that, where I think if you share that kindness, other people are going to follow suit. So he hadn't been telling me he'd been doing this. The reason he wanted to share it wasn't to boast. It was to basically say the cool story that went along with it, which was, Mom, I paid for this lady behind me. She was buying balloons. And so I asked her, he's very personable, what are you buying the balloons for? Well, that day, the adoption of their son had become final. And so they were buying balloons to celebrate. I had my mouth open too, Nicole. I was like, first of all, it's the first time hearing that you've been using your own money to pay for people behind you and line strangers. And secondly, you met someone new and you asked her this story. You were genuinely interested in hearing about what she was buying those balloons for. And you were genuinely touched that that's what she was buying them for. And he's sharing the story with me, then I'm sharing it with all of you. It's just that trifecta that you mentioned, that trifecta of kindness, that people in the line, even though the guy before who was buying, I kid you not, 10 cans of tuna, wouldn't let Sam pay for his 10 cans of tuna. Some people might not accept that kindness, and that's okay, because the people around you are still seeing that that kindness is being done, whether it's accepted or not. So I just wanted to share that with you today, because as we started this conference and you started sharing all these things, there were like little hints here and there, you know, the trifecta and all of these things that tied together with the story so beautifully. And so that's why I wanted to share it today. And my son is not a believer, and I wasn't a believer until, I would say, a couple years ago. And that's what my testimony was about, how that came to be. And so when I saw in the chat, let me see if I can find it here. When was it Christy posted her favorite quote of all time. She said, live your life in such a way that those who know you but don't know God can come to know God because they know you. And so it is, of course, my hope and prayer that he will come to know God and know that the light that he's sharing with everyone, it's not just coming from him, it's coming from a higher power. So I'm a rambler. I'm done.
Oh, so wonderful. And Shannon, do not put your light under a bushel basket. You know, I literally went to therapy several years ago, like 3 years ago, I think it was, because I was having this existential crisis about whether or not I should continue to talk about kindness. Because, you know, like, I'm not always kind, right? Like, I get it wrong sometimes. I'm like, who am I to be telling other people about kindness? Who am I to be doing this? You know, I'm in, and so it's this imposter syndrome, really.
That's what I was thinking. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So please, the world needs your voice. And so please continue to shine it. And anyone else who's out there who's feeling like Shannon, like, oh, you know, I don't know, I have this dream or hope, or I want to do something, please do it. Please let this be your encouragement that you need. So thank you, Shannon.
Thank you.
Shannon. We do have, I don't know if you have time for one question, Nicole, or?
Yeah. Oh, I have all the time in the world, Barb. This is my day. So people can leave when they're sick of looking at me, but you know, I'm here.
All right. Well, this is coming from Brooke Nicholson.
I know Brooke. Hi, Brooke.
Whoops. Where did Brooke go? Hold on a minute. We lost Brooke.
Maybe she decided after.
I know.
Hearing Shannon's amazing story that, you know, the interesting thing too is, you know, Shannon talked about her son and the light. And I know, as I know, hey, Brooke, I know, as I know that God works through people, whether they're believers or not. So, you know, there. Okay, Brooke, hi. Good to see you.
Hello. Good to see you. Thanks so much for being here today and sharing your stories and all you and Barb have done to get today ready, and the stories that people have shared, it's just been inspirational. So I appreciate that. My question comes from, and I apologize.
Can I see the little person? Show me the little person.
Yeah, say hi. Yeah, so the dog is outside right now, and I've locked the door, or else he'll be outside with him, and he's telling me that the door is locked. So my question kind of comes with some of this, my role as a mom.
Mommy, that's an butterfly.
Yeah, that's a butterfly. You see that? Yeah. So my question comes when, I love what you talk about with the worry and the hurry and the jury, and how you navigate that as your role with kids and being a mom and some of those pieces. I've tried something a little bit different with the hurry in my life. I feel like I'm always getting the kids in the car, And when we get in the car, it's like, we made it to where we're going. But I don't want my kids to have a day where they feel like they started out hurrying. So in the mornings now, I ask them questions intentionally, and I try to be calm even when my mind is not, to say, how are you going to try to be better than, something you did yesterday? Or how will you show kindness today? Or, we talk about some of those things to get them off on the right start. But I think I still struggle with the worry and the jury when it comes in the role of this, because of all the things that kids have to navigate these days. Yeah, so I'm just wondering if you have any tips.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you're having this conversation already about kindness with your kids every morning, or whether it's after school. Like, kindness is a continual conversation for us in our household with the kids. We're constantly talking about that sort of thing. And every day I ask them, what was your glad today? What was your sad today? What was your act of kindness today? Something you saw someone do, something someone did for you, something you did. It could be anything in the realm. And so there's that. The second thing is the pause, which means, like, if you're able to get from your car into your home, just stop in your car for a moment and check your text messages or that last email, or just sit there and have a moment with God, and then go into the house. Because I know for me, if I walk into the house and I'm in the middle of a text message, somebody's going to say something to me, and I'm like, wait, just a moment, I'm doing this, right? And so I need to be ready and available when I walk into the house. Now, here's the thing for worry. I did this before I even understood the magnificent power of Jesus and the cross. I was raised in a Catholic home. So I veered away at some point, and then I had to come back as an adult in the last 10 years and really find God. But when I found God, one of the things that I felt led to do was it was a visualization in my mind, Brooke. And here's what it was. I would say to myself, God, you love these children more than I do. They are yours. And I know you're going to take care of them. And so the visualization that went with that is, I literally would lay in bed if I was worried about a child, or anytime those things came up, I would close my eyes, and I could literally see myself picking up my babies one at a time and setting them at the foot of the cross. I would work through that in my mind, like I'm holding my child, I'm walking up to the cross with this child in my arms, and I am setting this child at the foot of the cross. And then I was very intentional in my visions to turn around and walk away and not look over my shoulder to see if God was really taking care of my child. And that just allowed me to let go of the worry, Brooke, because I know it goes along with that. He loves them so much more than you do, Brooke. And how much do you love them? So just, I hope that you will tell yourself that, and you will visualize that when you start thinking, what if? Because God has already taken care of the what if. He knows. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. So wonderful and very helpful.
Good. And I love that I got to see your little guy. Oh, I've heard of him, but I haven't gotten to see him, and he's a cutie. What else, Barb? Do we have other people who have questions, or?
We do have Mary Eiley would share something quickly if we have time. I'll get her on here.
Okay.
Mary, I'm going to promote you here, so you should be able to come on here in a second with your video if you'd like.
Hi, Mary. Can you unmute yourself? We can't hear you, so hit the unmute button.
Hi.
Oh, hi. There you are. I can see you and hear you. That's good stuff.
Okay. Well, I was just going to share a little something that I thought about happened probably about 6 months ago. I live in a neighborhood where not everybody's very friendly to each other, and across the street people come and go all the time, and sometimes I used to take cookies to them, but I don't even do that anymore because they kind of come and go. And on my side of the street, the person to the north and the person to the south, we've never really done a lot of things. Once in a while I might snow blow their walks, or they might snow blow my walks, and it's the person to the south of me that he's an older gentleman, and one of the first things he said to me when they have a swimming pool in their backyard, one of the first things he said to me when I moved in is, "This swimming pool is not a public pool." So it was like, okay, I get the message. And then we would kind of talk over the fence to each other once in a while. And then we've had our struggles because we together put a fence up from one that was really, really bad. And it was my idea that we would go half and half. And he's, being the man that he is, says, I'll take care of it. I know Michael's fence. I said, okay. And so it's in the way back of his backyard. It's in the front of my deck. He put the nice side on his side, and I got the rotten side. So this is kind of this relationship that we have with each other. Well, just about 8 months ago, we had kind of a, he was draining the top of the rainwater off of his swimming pool underneath his fence, which came very close to my property line and my landscaping. I just happened to be out because of COVID, you know. Everybody's landscaping looks a lot better this year because of COVID, because you don't have anything else to do. So I called him on it. And I said, so this is the only place that you can drain your water? And he said, oh, because he didn't see me there. And he said, well, yeah, is it bothering you? And I said, well, I really don't want my landscaping to be affected by this. And then we had some words. Okay, so that's kind of the way we left it. And then about a half an hour later, I'm kind of famous for making banana bread. And I had just made banana bread that day. And about a half an hour later, I was dinking around in my backyard, and this voice comes into my head that says, give him a banana bread. And I said, what? Give him a banana bread. And I said, I don't want to give him a banana bread. And it said again, give him a banana bread. So I went out, I got my banana bread, and of course there was nobody in the backyard. Well, then his wife comes out, which, honest to God, in the 30 years I've lived there, I don't think I've ever had a conversation with her. So I called her over, I gave her the banana bread. I said, give this to your husband and tell him I just want to be a good neighbor. And she goes, oh, he loves banana bread. And I said, yeah, just tell him that. He'll understand. And that was the end of it.
Oh.
But it's kind of funny. I don't think it made any difference in our relationship, to be real honest.
Mary, how did it make you feel knowing you were obedient to that voice?
It made me feel good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the right thing to do. I knew that as soon as I heard the voice, give him a banana bread, it was like, seriously? But then after the third, it always takes 3 times. It was pretty obvious that that's what, and it also, you talk about those endorphins and stuff. Mm-hmm. My blood pressure went down. I could tell because I was irritated with him, and that raises your blood pressure. And the serotonin and dopamine and all of that kind of stuff, it really works.
Yeah. Yep. And, we can't control anyone else's behavior. We can't control the way they speak to us. We can't control the things they do, but we can control ourselves, and we control our reactions to things. And so how beautiful that you would just make this peace offering. And, when the Holy Spirit calls us to do something, when we feel that nudge, I used to wait and think, I don't know, like, if this is really you, God, I'm going to need you to tell me again, and maybe another, like, if you could just send a skywriting so I know it's really you. But then the more that I began to trust that voice of the Holy Spirit, the more it's become a daily adventure. So I'll hear, I really feel like I hear from the Holy Spirit every day, like, send this text, go do this with this person, or do this for this person, or all kinds of things. It just really makes life fun. Thanks for sharing, Mary.
You're welcome.
Mary, this is some text that Sister Mary Catherine shared with me, and it reminded me of your story a little bit, but she just said, in preparation for today, she said, what you are responsible for is what you bring. The others are invited then to make it their own. So your good feelings came from giving that, and you can't worry about what he thought about it on his side. You knew that it made your heart feel good. So
very good. Thank you. This has really been a great oasis in the middle of a desert.
Thank you for saying that. This
perfect words. Thanks, Mary.
Yeah.
So Barb, I'm here as long as you want to be, as long as people want to share stories. But will you make sure you look at the chats and pick 2 people, and then just let me know who they are, and I will sign it to them. Or if they already have a copy, then I'll sign it to somebody else if they'd like, or if they want a different one of the other books instead, whatever. But okay. Let's make sure all these people who have chatted and have an opportunity to win it.
Yes, and I have been saving the chat, and I will save it. There's been so many good pieces that people have put in there, so I think if other attendees haven't seen those things, we will share that chat transcript as well, I think, because there's some very valuable information from just some of the attendees, and so
for sure, it's been fun interaction.
But I kind of want to be respectful for people's time. We have had some people had to go, and so I think if you're okay, we can move on. And people, if you have stories though, Nicole, I know she would love to receive them, use them in her column. So I know that you have my email, but you can go to Nicole's website and share them there with her, or send them to her email. She would absolutely love to have them. So
I would. My email is info@nicolejphillips.com. My website is www.nicolejphillips.com. And also I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. So I'm not hard to find. If you want to find me, I'm here. And I would love, love, love for you to share your stories of kindness with me. Write them down and send them to me. That is the number one way for me to get them. So thank you.
Good. Sounds good. Well, I don't know what more to say. I think it has been an amazing morning. And do you have anything? Oh,
Do you have a prayer, or do you want,
Yes, I do.
okay, good.
Do you have any, I was going to say, do you have any lasting, I don't want to take any time away from you, but.
No, everyone has their homework. You're going to think about what you're thinking about, find your mantra, figure out how you have encouraged somebody with your words. So yes, yep.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing yourself with us and for teaching us how to be a vessel of kindness in our thoughts and words and deeds, and how we can be the shining light for others. So just a few things as we do end today. I am grateful to so many people for making this event happen today. These women's events are made possible through the proceeds of our annual golf tournament, which unfortunately we could not have this year because of COVID, but we have amazingly supportive businesses and the sponsors who partner us each year and allow us to provide special events for women so that they can nurture themselves. And over the past several years, Avera Health, ID Bailey, and NBC have been our major sponsors. And we couldn't do our golf tournament without them, and we couldn't host these events without them. So I greatly appreciate their support. I would also like to thank your kindness team, Nicole. They have been instrumental in helping me get through this and to figure out how we'd get this all presented and shared with everybody. But, you know, I think it's one of the best things about planning events is that you get to meet new people and new speakers and form lasting relationships when they've left the convent. Sometimes you don't know if they'll stay in your lives, but I've been blessed by many special friendships. And so yours and your teams will be one of those. So I appreciate that. And thanks to my many coworkers who are on today and the presentation sisters who attended. I couldn't do it without your support and your prayers as well. And I appreciate those. Last but not least, I want to thank the girls on my mission development team. They have been overly supportive and always willing to jump on training webinars and test webinars to get ready for today. And we have ironed out details, and they have been with me every step of the way with supporting words. So I thank you all for that. You know who you are, and you know how much I love you all. So at this time, we will end our morning with our closing prayer, light a candle. And so I invite you to light your candle if you haven't already done so, and spend the next few moments deep within your thoughts about what you have learned today and how you can share those things with the people you meet in a challenging world. May you all continue to be kindness champions and hope providers to the people in our lives.
Light a candle in the darkness through the days of warring madness. Light a candle, keep it burning. Shine a path to peace returning. Light a candle warm and caring for the fearful and despairing. Light a candle so revealing ardent prayers for hope and healing. Oh, light a path to lasting peace, here where the greatest and the least can light a candle and keep it glowing. See the reign of God is growing. Light a path to every nation. It's time for reconciliation. Come light a candle. Light the way to peace. Light a candle firmly holding to the dream of love's unfolding. Light a candle in the darkness till we end our warring madness. a candle in its gleaming. See a ray of hope now streaming. Light a candle, keep it burning. Radiant path for peace returning. Light a path to lasting peace. Here where the bravest and the least can light a candle and keep it glowing. See the rain of God is growing. Light a path to every nation. It's time for reconciliation. Light a candle. Light the way to peace. Light a candle for tomorrow. Let it shine through all the sorrow. Light a candle softly glowing. Ray of kindness overflowing. Light a candle for a new day. Now's the time to choose a new way. Light a candle, flame unceasing. Let the love begin increasing. Light a path to lasting peace. Here where the greatest and the least can light a candle and keep it glowing. See the rain of God is growing. Light a path to every nation. It's time for reconciliation. Light a candle. Light the way to peace.
Again for joining us. And in the days and months to come, may the light of Christ be a symbol of his everlasting love. And may you be the light and a ray of kindness for others. Thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed your morning with Nicole.
Thank you, Barb. You're awesome. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a great day.